We're back with Women Who Make an Impact series, and today is an incredible episode. If you're a woman in the medical and dental world who is dying to make an impact and wants to learn from the greats, stick around, because this episode with one of the best is going to knock your socks off. Hello, welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today, guys, we have Minal Sampat. She is a best-selling author, market strategist. She is the Marketologist, and you know her from CE on the beach. She created a vision for herself of sitting on the beach, delivering CE and incredible insight to dentists. And guess what? That's what she does. She goes to incredible beaches, Aruba, incredible places, and she has made her dream come true. So join us today. You're going to love this conversation. Most interesting is what she thinks it means to show up for your vision. That really is the key to this episode. And you're going to love hearing about Minal as a little girl and what her dreams were and follow her journey of incredible success. Hello and welcome to the Business of Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Tarryn MacCarthy, and today is going to be such a great day. We have joining us again on the podcast one of my favorite people, Minal Sampat. Welcome, Minal.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so honored. I'm one of your favorite people. This is exciting.
You are, and you're absolutely one of the first people I thought of for this series.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you.
Absolutely. I know that everybody who's listening to the podcast, to this episode, agrees. Just the impact that you've made in the dental world has been so aspirational. And what you continue to do in the dental world and to show not just dentists, but coaches and consultants what's possible. It's really so inspirational from my perspective. So when I was creating this series of women who make an impact, I immediately thought of you. So I appreciate you joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So for those of you who have not yet the wonder of Minal Sampat, she's a best-selling author, marketing strategist, social media coach, and dental hygienist. She was born in India and grew up in the U.S. Virgin Islands, went to college in New Jersey, and now lives in Walla Walla with her husband and her amazing shoe collection. And one of my claims to fame is Minal commented on my shoes at his recent speaking engagement I had on stage. Minal, you don't know how much that meant to me that you complimented me on my shoes. You are the shoe queen in the speaking world.
I loved it. I was coming through the photos and I'm like, those shoes. And I was like, and everybody's like making these amazing, comments like amazing session, amazing. And I'm like, all of that and those shoes are just incredible.
That was the greatest compliment. So guys, literally, Minal launched her first company by breaking a Guinness World Record, and since then has helped hundreds of dental practices and businesses with marketing strategies to grow production while reducing their marketing expenses. She's the founder of the Marketologist, an online marketing training program, and very supportive of coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs in their marketing. And she's also the founder and host of CE on the Beach, where she hosts her incredible CE seminars and whole events on tropical islands. And the next one is in July in Aruba. Amazing. And what I really want to ask you today is you've done these incredible things. I've just read this litany of your accomplishments, starting out as a dental hygienist and now the founder of Marketologist, making big impact in terms of the beautiful CE that you're bringing to dentists, coaches, and consultants on the beaches in the Virgin Islands and all kinds of tropical places. I'd love for you to tell us what it means to you to make an impact.
It's interesting. For me, I started actually in marketing. I've always been in
That's right.
marketing. So
Before dental hygiene. That's
for
right.
digital hygiene, hygiene was also, I mean, I studied communication and biology in college, and I was hired as marketing for a dental practice. And the only reason I went to hygiene school was to really understand healthcare and patient communication. And I was lucky that I guess because I had degrees in bio and all this stuff, I was able to get into the hygiene program. And I always joke about it because I have only ever practiced once a week hygiene, and that's also in a pediatric practice. And I haven't practiced hygiene since the last 6 years. So it's funny, meeting planners would see me that I'm speaking at an event and be like, hey, this person can't come. Can you do a clinical talk? And I'm like, no, I can't. You don't understand. As we learn at Do, I have other gifts, and they do
Yes.
not include talking about clinical. If you want me to, I'll talk about anything else but clinical, because I have amazing friends and colleagues who are amazing speaker at clinical. And my word for 2024 is impact. So I
Ooh,
know. So
very
it was
aligned.
so aligned when you asked me what it makes to make an impact. I think everybody makes an impact in different ways, right? It depends on what your goals are or how you want to measure those goals.
Mm,
For me, being who I am, if I can have somebody take even a small tidbit of anything that I have shared or coached or done anything, and they can just say, wow, this really helped me, that's it. That really is the impact, is just having the ability to make a difference.
mm,
And if you're not making a difference, then no matter what you do, you may not find the same fulfillment.
mm, mm. That's very true. So what does impact look like for you at this stage in your career?
It's still the same.
Mm,
I don't think it was the same when I started. I think it's the same now. It's just that now it's figuring out ways to make that impact in many lives, and
mm,
not just one life, right? So you want to find systems and strategies and ways for you where you can create almost like a beehive, where you are able to share this information, and one person shares with another person shares with another, and it can create a series of that impact, because that's all it really takes.
mm.
So if there was a way that I could do that, that's really my goal for 2024, is how do we maximize this together, where we all work together towards these goals, where we are impacting each other and each other's lives and businesses.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that idea of a beehive and of like a community uprising, supporting and empowering one another.
Mhm.
Yeah, really cool. What have you learned over time
Mhm.
that you needed to change about your own belief structure, about who you are and what you're capable of in order to impact others in a deeper way?
I think one of the things that took me a while to understand, and now I preach about it constantly, is we are our own cheerleader and our
Mm,
own worst enemy. So sometimes when we put things out there, or when we want to achieve things, we don't allow ourselves to market ourselves, because we feel that it's too, I'm being too salesy, or oh no, I don't want to talk about me, like I'm too shy, I don't want to talk about me. That may not come across right. And it's that idea is, if you don't talk about you, or if you don't talk about your products or your services, why should anybody else? You
mm,
have to be the leader. You have to start. And I realized that you have to be your own cheerleader, and you have to be, and you are your own worst enemy, because we all go through that. We all go through this misjudgment of, well, I don't want to come off as being this. And I understand that none of us do, and nobody's telling you to become a walking billboard. What we're doing is that it's totally okay for you when somebody says, hey, what do you do, to share. What do I do? Hey, what is your goal? What would you like to accomplish this year? I really want to speak at 5 meetings this year. Amazing. Well, you know what? I know this meeting planner. What's your subject? Let's open that door to conversation so that your goals are being met. And that was something that took a while for me to connect to as well, because we just assume that people know about you, or they know um, what you do, and that there's going to be a way to success. There isn't. You have to be very clear, and you have to be vocal about it, and you do have to become your own cheerleader in whatever comfortable way you can do that.
So when you're saying become your own cheerleader, you mean not just how you speak to yourself, but how you speak about yourself to others.
Yes, it matters.
Mm.
right? We can pick up energy from people. We can pick up how somebody is behaving. I studied communication, and one of the biggest things I did was nonverbal communication. In fact, I worked for the government on figuring out nonverbal cues. And one of the things that is interesting is how you show up matters.
Mm.
Your confidence or how you're portraying. Now, if you are going to just whisper, if somebody says, "Hey, what do you do?" and well, yeah, I'm trying. I'm going to do, and that's fine. You could, but I want you to still get to the step of saying, "This is what I'm doing.
Mm.
This is what I want to get at," and that is your own being your own cheerleader because you believe in your product, your service, whatever it is that you are maximizing, and it's okay for you to do that. It's okay for you to go through that journey of establishing your own confidence. And one of the ways that I did it, which I spent a lot of money on this, so I can now share about it. It's pretty much I joined and showed up at every single organization and meeting in the industry. And I'm not joking about this. Like, if people are, "Oh, I met you at SCN. Oh, I met you at ADMC. Oh, I met you at ADOM. Oh, I met you at Do. Oh, I met you here." Yeah, because I literally signed up for every single organization,
Wow.
and I showed up at every meeting. And then I reached out to all the board for every single organization and said, "Hi, my name is Minal Sampat. I really have a knack for marketing. I love to do marketing. Are you looking for something for this organization that I can serve? How can I be of help?" And that's how I got into the Do board. That's how I got into the ADMC board. That's how I became a faculty for Vanessa Emerson at DSI, right? But it's one, you have to invest in yourself, because again, if you don't invest in yourself, who will?
Mm.
And two, you have to show up. And that success is not easy. It looks different for everybody, but there are certain things that you have to do, and that's how do you make that beehive bigger? You have to continue to go to different beehives, and meet other bees, I guess, and continue to grow that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love also what you just said, that success isn't easy. It's actually very simple, but it's not easy. And so often we look at someone like you and we say, "Oh my gosh, Manal's doing CE on the beach and hundreds of dentists are showing up and this looks like so much fun and she's got this beautifully choreographed layout on the beach with everything and it looks like such an easy thing to do." But that didn't happen overnight. And so I want to just shine a little bit of a spotlight on what it took for you to get to that place, to have that massive impact on the dental community.
It's so funny. Just on Saturday, I shared a post on Facebook about vulnerability and sharing about how 10 years ago I tried to put an event and so many people showed interest. I had a wait list and not one person signed up.
Oh,
Or how I remember a meeting planner looking at my speaker packet and then saying out loud, I overheard them saying it, "Oh, will they understand her accent?" and never even taking my packet with them. Or there's so many things. While writing my book, like just every day I would think, is anybody even going to enjoy reading this book? Like, is this even powerful? Is this even that? So we have all been through that journey of self-doubt, and we unfortunately we do have to fail to see why we failed and become better. That has to be a part of our growth process, because otherwise, if everything is so easy, then you're never really going to grow as a human, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. But the way that I think the impact changed was I went from being, "Hey, I'm doing this awesome event, you guys should come," to, "Hey, this is why I'm doing this awesome event.
mm,
This is the reason behind it. This is why I do this," or "This is the reason I think," like, see on the beach is different because there is one day for coaches, consultants, speakers, and 2 days for dentists and teams. So it's designed differently. And why see on the beach? And there's a story behind that. And there is a story behind why. So the issue was I wasn't sharing stories. I was
mm,
only sharing, "Hey, I'm doing this." That's great. And people are like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds good. But why are you doing it? What is
mm.
the reason behind it?" And once you start sharing that, it makes a huge impact on others because they follow that journey with you. They understand what they're what they're going to get once they get to that, whatever that is, your coaching program, your service, when they use your product. What is the why behind it? And that helps a lot.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. I think you've mentioned a few critical components already. One being cheerleading and self promotion, being courageous enough, changing that paradigm of saying it's selfish or it's grandstanding, whatever that is. And then failing, making
Yeah.
failure a part of your success. Yeah, such a big component. And then the third component you're just talking about is sharing why you're doing what you're doing and not just telling people what you're doing.
It's so important to fail. And I
Mm,
know, and and that's hard, right? Nobody wants to fail. Like we don't plan to fail. We don't. It's very hard. You need to have a thick skin for failure. But the thing is, if you decide to become an entrepreneur, you already have the thick skin. You already have the power because you gave up that 8 to 5 to become an entrepreneur. So honestly, I'm not worried about you having to deal with failure because I feel that you deciding to be an entrepreneur has that little glimpse of it. And sometimes failure, if something happens, it may look like calling your best friend and saying, well, this sucked.
mm,
this did work out, or calling that colleague that
yeah.
you're close to, or a friend, or getting on that organization that you belong to and simply say, hi guys, so I'm trying to do this. What are some things that you have done that have worked, because it's really not working for me.
Mm,
So honesty also matters.
mm,
Authenticity also matters. Pretending that something's working when it's not is not going to help. Or being in that bubble of, I've been doing this for 2 years, it's not working. I think Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Pivot is necessary. Like there is, I went from one-on-one coaching, which I still do a little bit of. I have one-on-one coaching, to online programs, to events, and I have like 4 or 5 online programs, to speaking. So I was pivoting in every direction that was necessary in that timely manner, and that has really kind of pushed me to think of ways of how can I be of service at the right time. So, for example, when the world was on pause, my book came out in 2020 in January, and then the world went on pause. Um, and everything went virtual. So 2021, January, I launched Marketologist, an online program, because we were all doing virtual. Then 2020 came around and we were all excited to leave our homes. So See on the Beach was born, because we wanted to travel the world again. So See on the Beach was born, right? So every year you kind of have to look at what is timely and how can I help with that. Like See on the Beach has, from, hey, welcome to my island and let's do a hands-on workshop, the first year, to last year dividing it into coaches and consultants one day, to
mm.
2 doctors and team days, to this year. And usually I was the only speaker because I was teaching and training, and there's a workbook we had to go through. And then even this year I had to change all that up, and it's a different location, so that's a whole different level of making things work. But this year, I have other speakers, and I have panels, and because I realize that people can only hear me so many times. They
Mm.
can only be fascinated by me so many times. I have to bring in other people, so I pivoted again. So pivoting is necessary as an entrepreneur, and failure allows you to pivot. It
Yes.
allows you to see what's necessary.
It gives you the direction.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's such an important thing. What else did you learn about yourself in this process? I love the idea that, and I believe this deeply, that entrepreneurship, the entrepreneurial journey, is a personal development journey, because we are failing constantly, and when you fail you learn about yourself and how you react to those failures and what's coming up for you. So what did you learn about yourself in this journey of greater impact?
Um, that I am forever going to be a learner.
Mm,
A lot of times when we become a coach, a consultant, a speaker, right? So when you go on the stage and you have hundreds of people there who want to listen to you, you kind of have to be a know-it-all because you're teaching them,
yeah.
which is great. But I think the one of those other things that I learned about myself is I am a constant learner. So
Mm.
while I am sharing, and I honestly share everything that sucked, like, hey guys, I tried this. Like, I pull up my phone, I pull up my websites, I pull up my computer, I literally pull up my funnel system. I'm like, that did not work. This worked. This is how we are going to do this. Or I tried this 3 times and this didn't work. And that's why I guess I openly share. But I think, and that's a learner quality, because when I share my successes and my failures openly, I'm learning myself, and I will say, well, why did this really not work? let's figure this out. Let's see how we can dissect this to make this better. And then I can talk about that and say, okay, so this is what I did to dissect it. And then I will literally ask, anybody has tried this? What have your results been?
Mm.
But like, oh yeah, I tried this, and this is this, and this is this. So I think for me, that was a biggest thing was learn. Just be a learner. Be open to knowing that you are not, if you're in a room and you're the smartest person there, you're in the wrong room. Change your
Mm.
room because we don't want to do that. And I don't think you should ever believe that you are the smartest person in the room, even if you have the stage or whatever it is that you're doing, because there are so many incredible, brilliant minds that we have. So opening to be a forever learner, I think, is something I look forward to. Like I look forward to every morning when I get an email. I'm like, whoa, look at this thing. This is so cool, and I get really pumped about it. I'm like, yeah, let's go do this.
And what you just tapped into was the power of curiosity, because curiosity pulls us out of
Hmm.
that I'm not good enough feeling. So looking at something objectively and saying, wow, what isn't this interesting? Why didn't this work? What could I do differently? That level of curiosity keeps us from that self-talk that tells us you're not good enough. You messed it up again.
And you see, and this is like it's a balance, right, of being your own cheerleader. So you are openly talking about, okay, I want to do this, I'm good at this, but at the same time of I'm also willing to learn and be better
Mhm.
at
Yes.
all times. So it's that balance, I think, for my journey that has worked very well. Is yeah, okay, I'm really good at this, guy, so this is why I'm going to do this. But I know I can make it better. Let's continue to do that, and maybe that's why it's creating this momentum of people who are on my audience or who are coming to events multiple times is because I can do that. And I will tell them honestly, like, I talked about this last year. Let's not even go there. Let's go into something new. So let's talk about this instead. So that combination, I think it took a long time to get there, but it's good.
Mm. And thank you for reflecting that, because that duality of being very self confident, high
Mhm.
self belief, and humility, growth mindset, constantly learning, they feel like opposites, but really they can live at the same time. And when you can find that intersection, you find the sweet spot.
Mhm. I mean, if you look at so many leaders out there, they will tell you that leaders, if you read books on leadership, or if you hear some of the phenomenal leaders in this world, one of the things they always tell you, be curious.
Mm.
Like I think it was, I forget who it was, who said, stay hungry. Yeah, it was like, stay hungry, stay curious, something similar to that,
Mm.
which is, yeah, you have to find joy in your work. And I think if you do the same, if you are the same person you were yesterday or 3 weeks ago, that's great. But if you are the same person a few years ago as a business owner, you probably want to take a look and say, what can I do to make it
Yeah.
a little different?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, thank you for sending me. You send me a picture of your younger self. She's adorable, standing in front of that Christmas tree. It looks like you're in a mall.
I was. I was in my parents, we were on vacation in Dubai.
Oh, wow. Okay, you were in Dubai. So sweet. So, how old is Manal in that picture?
I think I'm probably about 8 years old.
8 years old.
Yeah.
And when you were 8 years old, what was it? What did you want to do with your life? What did you want to
Oh,
be when you were
dentist. I was from the time I was born, it wasn't even like an option, or it wasn't even like a thing. I grew up, my mentor, my uncle was my mentor, who was a practicing dentist, and I just grew up loving him and knowing him and seeing him care and all of that. And so it was one way or the other, it was always going to be in the dentistry field. Like it
Yeah.
was since I can remember.
And what was it about dentistry that you were so drawn to at that age?
My uncle, so we used to live in, I was born in India, and I was in India till I was 12 years old. So in India, you lived, a lot of the times you lived together. So my uncle was, my dad is one of 10. My uncle is the oldest and was the oldest, and my dad was the youngest. So they almost had a father-son relationship. And
Wow.
he was almost like, he was my granddad,
Mhm.
almost like my granddad. And we lived together in this house in India. And I remember like going to his clinics all the time. But what was really interesting was we were in a small town, and we would have patients who could come and knock on the door at the house, who would be
Mm.
in pain and who would want to get out of pain. And he would always come out and he would always help them. And, it was always as a little girl, when you don't know much of the world and you don't know how things work or how people behave and the complexities of the adult world that we live in, it was so simple. It was like somebody came in pain and then they went happy.
Mm,
Somebody wasn't smiling and then they were smiling. And
mm,
and that was kind of, I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to give people, smiles and make them happy. And so it was a almost an instant, this is what I'm going to do, this is where I'm going to
mm,
be.
mm. Oh, that's beautiful. I love seeing those components reflected in your full grown self. I mean, obviously the dentistry, now you're serving a dental community,
Mhm.
but the component of community that you said you grew up with in your home and how that's such a big part of your impact now is supporting communities. You've talked about this beehive over and over again. And also in terms of the levity and fun and happiness that's so beautifully reflected as well. With "See you on the beach," like, "Come come to me," you know, overwhelmed and burnt out in dentistry and leave happy. Leave with a margarita. It really is so beautiful how those components that drew you to wanting to make an impact in people's lives have kind of spelled their way out throughout your journey and really come to fruition at this point in your life.
I do think our past shapes us.
Yeah.
And I've been very lucky to have a very supportive family, very supportive husband. Even, I mean, I even get along with my in-laws. My mother-in-law and I are best friends. I mean, who says that, right? But we are. So I'm always thankful and grateful
Mm,
that I grew up with that kind of love and support, where enjoyment and laughter were always a part, no matter how things went or how difficult things were. Or this also kind of reflects in the way that I see women in dentistry. Is a lot of times we feel, well, let's just be real for a second. It's not a lot of times we feel, this is a fact, is that women tend to compete with women,
yes.
and it's sad.
Mm,
It's sad to see that when you are all trying to break that glass ceiling, which is easier to break with many of us than one person. So
mm,
why aren't we all kind of getting together and doing this? So a lot of times I do have to, like, I sit back and I hate that. I hate that competitiveness that women have with each other, because so many of us are going through the same life,
yeah.
the same journey. We have shared emotions, shared stories, shared lifestyles. And to not support each other and to not realize that the world is very big and we
Mm,
can all still be very good and very happy if we were to support each other, I think that's a big part. And I think that also comes from my family, where there is no competitiveness. We all kind of work together. My family my parents own a small family business. So, we all grew up working together. And, with my husband's family, they're very close together. And there is no ill will. There is no competitiveness. It's almost like if you see somebody else do good, you cheer. You get up and you buy a cake and you throw up together. You FaceTime if you're not there, and you
ah,
celebrate and you sing a song, and you support each other, right? You super cheer. So I hope that we continue to see that more in dentistry. I hope that women continue to support and love and cheer and say their names in a room full of people in a
mm,
positive light when we can, because that's that just makes everyone happy.
mm,
Happiness is contagious. And once you start doing that, you will realize that there is really no competitiveness,
mm, mm.
you know?
Oh, that's beautiful. I'm so glad that you mentioned that because you are right. We are so much more capable and empowered when we join forces, when we rise together. And that does mean rising one another up. Yeah. So cool. So cool. So, what do you think is the most misunderstood about making an impact? What do you think that when we're speaking to entrepreneurs who are listening to this beautiful episode, and maybe they're inspired by you, by the incredible things you've done, by growing these beautiful CE events or creating whole programs online to support people in their marketing, what would you say is the most misunderstood thing about making impact?
Not and I mentioned this before, is not showing up.
Ooh.
Not showing up. You have to show up. You have to, even if you were to join an organization, show up.
Mm.
If that organization has meetings, show up. If that organization allows you to get on phone with people, do it. If that organization is looking for board members or needs help, provide it. You have to, if you want to make an impact, you have to be present
Mm.
to make that impact. And I find this happening all the time, where I'll get people reaching out to me and say, tell me everything you did and how you did it in 30 minutes. And it's like, okay, in 30 minutes, everything I did, how I did it is self-invest. Whatever money you have, self-invest in every single program, every single thing. If you know that this person's going to be there and you need to connect with them, show up to that meeting and connect with them, right? If you know that you have to learn marketing, show up here and learn how to do that. If you know that you want to write an article, show up at Duke, write that article, talk to Andy, but you have to show up. And that showing up, without it, there is no impact to be made, because then nobody will really know you or who you are and what you do.
It's not enough to just create the online program. It's not enough
Absolutely
to just
not.
create the event. It has to be something you show up for.
It has to, I mean, when I created Marketologist, literally sent out over 200 mailers to people in the industry with like Marketologist t-shirts and swag. It's funny, I have a whole box sitting here right now, with swag and t-shirts and stuff, and explaining to them why I created Marketologist, what's the reason behind it, what it includes, why you should do it. And I'll be honest, when I launched Marketologist, there was nothing recorded for Marketologist. I sold a curriculum that I then showed up. I'm not even joking. It was a curriculum. It was, hi guys, here's a website. Here are all the topics we're going to cover. Here are the dates we're going to cover. We're going to record everything as we do this, and then you can access it and show up to it. So it was an online program without videos. And the reason that was done was we were living in a world of webinars, and everybody that I spoke to said they do not want recorded videos. They actually wanted me to show up. They want me to show up on the webinar and teach it live, so they can answer me. I can answer questions, we can collaborate, we can go over strategies with them. And instead of, it would have been so much easier for me to just record a bunch of content and post it, but that didn't happen. But sending that out, showing that information, I had to show up. I had to show up in every capacity, not just teaching the content, but show up like this with, 50, 60 people who had signed up for Marketologist on Tuesday nights for 3 hours, and be like, hi, this is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it. What do you have? What questions do you? And it was exhausting, but that's why it became successful, because I showed up, and because I showed up, they showed up.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about is having an impact requires a personal connection, requires you to show up in person as yourself. We have very hard time creating impact from a distance, from through computers or recordings. And there's something special that happens when it's happening in the present moment. There's an energy. You were talking about energy earlier. There's an energy that resonates even with someone through a screen. But when you're in person, that's very different from something that's been recorded or something that's done from a distance.
And again, if you are able to get that energy, but even if you decide to show up in a recording, show up as yourself, be authentic, and like, be joke about it, make a side note, say what's actually happening in your life. And it does create that personalization, but it's that self-investment and the showing up part. And now, after many years, I'm able to take a look and say, okay, do I need to drop any of my memberships that I belong to? Have they served their purpose? But and you ask those questions to yourself, but you first have to get to that point. So my advice is, if you decide to join memberships or go to conferences or events or whatever it is, show up first and give it your all. Don't assume. So a lot of times what happens is, I will have somebody who calls me and says, hey, I'm trying to join this organization. I'm like, great, join it. They show up once, they go there, but then they drop it, and they're like, yeah, nothing really came out of it. And then the conversation will be like, well, when you went there, what did you do? Tell me about it. Who did you meet? Who did you talk to? Who did you collaborate with?
Mm.
How many phone numbers did you collect? Who did you catch up with after that? How did you share what you're going to do, or what your goals are, or what are the next steps? And they're like, oh, I just kind of went there and sat and heard the speakers. It's like, okay, again, you showed up as an attendee, but you didn't show up for your business. You didn't show up, to do
Ah,
more. So there is that aspect of us assuming that we can just be somewhere and it will change our lives. We can be somewhere and we can feel passionate and we can feel empowered. That's great. But then take the action on it,
yeah.
because that
Beautiful.
will go away.
Yeah. You're reminding me when I first started speaking on stages, I remember thinking people would just come to me and ask me to do it, and I almost felt uncomfortable promoting myself because I thought, oh, well, they're just going to know about me and they're going to come to me. And the exact opposite is true. It actually requires that action that you were talking about, having the clarity of
Mhm.
your intention and then the follow through with the action. Yeah. Yeah. So beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself here today, Manal. Really, it means so much to be able to get a little bit of the behind the scenes and recognize that wherever you are in your journey, that there's still that hope and possibility because you can still choose tomorrow to show up, still choose to learn from your failures. Yeah. Yeah. As you look forward into the upcoming year and ahead, I know you mentioned that impact is your word for 2024 and what that means is scaling it. What do you think will need to change for you in your own identity in order to step into the next iteration of yourself?
I am systemizing. So
Mm.
it's all about systems and making that impact at the same level without me being one on one, or it
Mhm.
could be that how do I maximize a message or maximize a strategy or a process. So it's just it's coming down to systems. My team and I are all looking into systems, learning systems, failing at systems, hoping to make that better.
Cheerleading
What
each other through the system failures.
we know that was really horrible, but let's try this instead and let's see
Yeah.
how it goes. Go
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's you have to have those steps, those action steps, those goals. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to the journey. I'm looking forward to failing and learning and hopefully making an impact.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, my friend. Best of luck to you for 2024. And thank you to all of you for listening to this episode with us today. Definitely, we can reach out to Manal. She's got so many great ways to reach out to her. I'd love you to share that with us, please, Manal. For anybody who's listening who wants to find out more, maybe about Marketologist or CE on the beach, or just to be able to ask you some questions about making greater impact, how can they find you?
Just minalsampat.com, minalsampat.com. You could totally go to the website, but just send me a DM. I'm easy to find on Facebook with the same name, Instagram. I'm very accessible, so please feel free to send a DM, and I look forward to hearing your story.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And remember, when you feel good, that's when you can do good. Bye bye. Hey, beauty. If you enjoyed this episode, then like and subscribe to the show and receive this beautiful message of empowerment, remembering what you are capable of and the purpose you serve in this world every single week. And if you know of a colleague who needs this message, share this episode with her. This is how we raise the collective in healthcare, reminding one another and supporting one another. Community is the answer. This is how we grow it. And lastly, I invite you to a phenomenal in-person event this October 2024, the Empower Her Retreat, exclusively for women in medicine and dentistry on the beach. It will change your life. And I cannot wait to see you there. Check out the details in the show notes and have a phenomenal day remembering that you are enough.